welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for this evening, or this morning, or this afternoon. It just depends when you're listening, really. After all, it's your podcast. Now, joining me today is, they've become like a staple joke of our podcast. And that doesn't mean that they are indeed a joke. I'm joined here by one of the other Scottish podcasts in Scotland. It is the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast.
Hello.
So I've got Ben and I've got Josh.
Hello.
And if you've obviously we've confused the names, so people don't know. so say hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben.
Say hello, Josh.
Hello, Josh.
And it's fantastic to have you guys on. It's
yes, thank you for having us. It's great to be on. Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is the first time we're being interviewed.
It's a bit weird actually being the guests now.
I feel a bit vulnerable.
Do you? It's okay. We'll be.
I mean, are you going to come out with some like really hard hitting questions?
You're not going to ambush us, are you?
I wouldn't dream of ambushing you at all. I mean, that's really not in our nature. But I mean, we have now got quite a few. We've got quite a few American listeners now. So howdy. But I guess the guys in America would probably like to know, being the other Scottish podcast, where in Scotland are you from, guys? Where in Scotland are you from, Ben?
Well, I'm from Glasgow, specifically the south side. Oh. It is a big city. But born and bred.
Good.
Been here all my life.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Cool. And Josh, whereabouts in Scotland are you from?
I'm not Scottish. I'm from England.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I thought you said for a second that you weren't Scottish.
I'm not. I'm from England.
Wait a minute.
No, nobody's perfect.
Land of hope and glory.
Nobody's perfect.
I just can't believe it. That's fine.
Shakespeare, Winston Churchill, the Churchill dog, the Beatles.
Flippin' heck, fish and chips, drive a Capri.
Fish and chips and the far right.
No Britannia. Combat 18. Everything like that.
In all seriousness, I'm from Cumbria. I'm actually from which your American listeners is almost but not quite Scotland.
It is. It's pretty much Scotland.
I think at various points in history it was part of Scotland.
Yeah. Well, you can actually see Scotland from my mum and dad's back garden.
Yeah.
Well,
so that gives you an idea of how close we are. I'm actually from the worst named town in Britain, though.
What's that?
Go for it.
Cockermouth.
Oh, brilliant!
It's the mouth of the River Cocker, so that's the logical name to name a town.
If I was thinking there was going to be any place you were going to hail from, Josh, it was going to be there. But anyway, no, we've been. In the green room, I did say, there was not going to be. I don't usually plan anything, and I thought, well, I'm gonna, when I listened to Josh's dulcet tones and the fact that every podcast for the last 15 or 20 have been saying, and there's only 3 other podcasts in Scotland, and one of them is, the Unlucky Frog Gaming, and I went, hang on a minute.
We pretend that half of us not even Scottish.
Well, you did wear a kilt to my wedding.
I did, yeah.
So you're an honorary Scot.
I think I carried it as well. You can't help but strut when you're wearing a kilt, though. That's the thing.
Oh yeah.
There's something about it's hard to explain. But if your listeners if you've never worn a kilt, do it. Yeah. Regardless of your heritage, just do it.
Yeah.
I think you have to just get out there because you know why they said William Wallace was yelling freedom because he was kind of jangling back a bit, and because this is nice. I like this. I wouldn't mind fighting for this kind of thing. And the English coming along saying you're not allowed to wear your kilts, and it's like, but what about our freedom? You can't stop us from doing that. Hey. No, I'm delighted to have you guys along because I have been catching up with your stuff and listening to your stuff as you've been releasing things, and you guys, you've had a few people on that we've spoken to. You've had the fantastic Mr. Mark McKinnon on.
Yes, of Wrecking
Room. You've also had the rather mad cat lady that's also known as Bez. She's been on as well a couple of times.
Bez was fantastic. Never a dull moment with Bez.
She's coming back on again to our show, and I
don't.
Oh,
excellent! Are you having her on the run up to Bez Day 2018?
I think it's actually this week.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
So, she's got to follow up whatever happens tonight. So, the kind of the bar will be set. The reason I've got you guys on, quite simply, is because I want to have a chat with you because of what you've been up to, what you've been doing, find out a little bit more about yourselves. I mean, the reason that we do our show is quite simply because we think there's simply not enough podcasts out there about board gaming. As I say, there's only 3 in Scotland. There's us, there's these guys here, and then there's the first player token people who we still haven't spoken to. we still haven't. Have you spoken to them?
We have not spoken to them. No.
I'm wondering. No. I don't know.
Please get in touch.
Please reach out. Please, just let us know.
Please, send help.
Yeah.
But what we want to do, we just want to find out a little bit about yourselves, a little bit about your history,
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of got into tabletop gaming the same way, albeit in different parts of the country.
Yeah.
We're both Warhammer players from way back when. This is actually how Ben and I met. I actually moved up to Glasgow for work and didn't know anyone up here, so naturally grabbed my plastic toy soldiers and rocked up to the Games Workshop, or just Warhammer as it is now known.
Yeah, it was Games Workshop at the time,
and
it'll always be Games Workshop.
Yeah, I still call it Games Workshop.
Yeah, everyone does.
Yeah, and you guys were running a fantasy campaign.
Yep.
That I managed to get in on. Because if no one's played with a Circle of Pete guys who are into Warhammer, they're the most fickle bunch of people ever. So people were dropping out this campaign like nobody's business. I stuck on till the bitter end though.
I mean, there was a core of about 8 of us.
Yeah.
That hung on to the end, but yeah, like you say, there was lots of little casuals orbiting around.
No, that's a very
scattered to the winds. Yeah.
So that's kind of how we both got into tabletop gaming. I suppose from there, it was shows like on YouTube, like Will Wheaton's Tabletop on Geek and Sundry, and Shut Up, Sit Down were the ones that caught my attention. I was really into video games years ago.
Yeah.
And it just, because I was into Warhammer as well, like the board gaming and, just tabletop gaming in general, just seemed like a natural step.
I mean,
gaming.
I think I'm probably still more into video games than you. I mean, up until recently, I was running an Xbox clan.
All right.
Of about, when I was running it, I think there was probably about 20 guys, that were playing to varying degrees. Some guys were just dropping in and out. Some guys were playing every night, and we would play games like Destiny and things like that.
Are you original Destiny? Are you talking about Destiny 2?
Original Destiny. I tried playing Destiny 2 for about a week, and
what'd you think of it?
I couldn't get into it.
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard varying degrees of reports from Destiny 2, and I think the addition of them trying to take more money in microtransactions has harmed the pot a little bit.
Yeah. I don't. Do you ever watch the Angry Joe show?
On occasion, I have been known to partake.
So what he's referred to 2017 in terms of video gaming as the year of the microtransaction.
Yeah.
Because that's been the stumbling block for a lot of the big AAA games this year, I think. Because you had the Battlefront 2.
I was just going to say Star Wars Battlefront 2, even like even someone who doesn't follow video gaming, I'd heard all about that.
Oh yeah.
As well.
Well, you see how cheap it is now, or how cheap they made it over the Christmas holidays on the Sony sale. It was down to something like I think it was down as £30 or even lower than £25.
Wow.
And the original Battlefront is a reasonable laugh, but you can kind of pick up everything in the season pass for about a tenner.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of thinking, do I wait? Do I bother playing it? Because I'd usually probably play it on the single player and then have a fly about in a spaceship, which is an awful lot of a kind of a good of fun. Do you keep kind of like the video game kind of hobby still running along then, Ben? Are you still kind of checking out the kind of the new and shiny on the electronic front as well?
Well, I keep my foot in the door, but around the time that we started talking about launching the Unlucky Frog gaming podcast, which was about August of last year. That was when I officially turned to the guys in my clan and said that I was handing it over, because I knew that running the podcast would mean that I couldn't be around as much as the leader of a gaming clan probably should be.
Yeah.
So I do still dabble a little bit, but I got my hands full with tabletop stuff now.
So is it a group of different groups of friends that are playing the tabletop stuff for you that are playing the video game stuff? Does the two kind of intermix?
Not really. I mean, most of the guys in my clan are in other cities or in other parts of the world. So right out. I mean, most of them are in different parts of England and the US. Although, shout out to Richie, Steve, and Ryan.
All right.
From the Evocati Gaming Clan, who came all the way up from London for my wedding last February.
Oh, cool.
Which was really cool. It was also the first time
meeting them.
Yeah, it was also the first time I met them face to face, which was quite surreal. But
the thing is, though, this is one of the weird things with the internet, right? You can feel like you do foster these friendships without even meeting someone necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm well out of the video gaming thing. I was just saying to Ben, I've made the critical mistake of reinstalling Civilization 4 on my laptop.
I'm lucky you're on the show tonight then.
Yeah.
Surprised it was an apology 5 minutes. It's like, so where's Josh? He's currently kind of reinventing the pyramids at the moment, but he's trying to get his agriculture up and his technology kind of thing. So
he's reconquering India.
The thing is, right? So for I've played 5 and 6. I haven't played 6 actually, but I played a bit of 5, and that was quite different. But 4's the one I always go back to, and really 4's not all that different from the very first one from the early 90s. But there's just Sid Meier clearly managed to perfect putting crack cocaine in electronic form, because I swear it is the most addictive video game I have ever played. There's just something really
Sid Meier, I think he makes games for closet psychopaths,
well,
yeah.
I mean,
so, do you have a Napoleon complex? Your Civilization.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny though, because we talk about the styles of tabletop games we like, and you could probably tell that I would be into the Civilization, the video game, just by the kinds of games I like and the way I play games.
Yeah, like a lot of the turn-based strategy games are essentially just it's a computer rolling dice for you and moving the little men about as opposed to doing it all on a kitchen table.
It's kind of the randomizer. I mean, in many ways, the reason that you can get these complex kind of real-time strategy systems is that traditionally you'd be picking up 8 dice and then rolling them on the table and seeing the kind of the results, and that the difference is that they kind of decide what the kind of the critical hits are and what the damage is and stuff like that. I mean, it's the same, let's face it, looking at your Diablos and your Diablo 3s of this world, that's all it is. You're just collecting your loot. It's just they've kind of made it easier for you to kind of play it in kind of video game format.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a friend back home, a guy who used to work with Paul Laverack. Shout out, Paul, if you're listening to this.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, he was into wargaming, and not wargaming in the sense of Warhammer 40k or anything like that. We're talking old school, like paper tokens wargaming, like simulations of World War II. And looking at the rule books,
you need to be a member of Mensa to
understand the rules. Like, but it's. I always think it's funny how tabletop games informed video games at first, and now tabletop's getting things off video games again.
Yes,
it's just it's interesting how, because I suppose like the discipline of designing a game in principle is no different on what medium you use, right? No. You've got a different kind of resource available to you with making a computer program.
Mm-hmm.
But
essentially, like if you're boiling it down to like a molecular level, one's using algorithm, whereas one's using dice.
Yeah, and that's it. I think one of the nice things about tabletop, and I think this is why it's over the last 15, 20 years. Do you think it's been growing for now? There's certainly been a steady uptick and the number of people who are playing it and the number of copies of board games being sold. And I think part of the reason is it's kind of the simplicity of it, right? And I mean, we joke about like games that require you to be a member of Mensa just to understand. Mm. But really what it is, it's that sort of aesthetic and tactile element of the hobby, holding the dice, holding the counters, moving pieces on a board.
Because the video games, as much as I do enjoy them, and there are experiences that you'll get in a video game that you just couldn't get in a tabletop game. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, a video game almost strips away a little bit of the humanity.
Yeah.
Of gaming, whereas I think that the reason that so many people around our age and younger are discovering tabletop games is that they're now realising that they can have that very human, that very social experience.
And that's absolutely right. Yeah, there's some things likewise. There's some things in video games you could never do in a tabletop game. I'm yet to play a video game that simulates diplomacy, quite like talking to your mate next to you about why you shouldn't invade his territory, and and just loads of things like that. I think that's one of and I think this is one of the reasons why Ben and I are so passionate about tabletop games and talking about it and bringing it to an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, take the complexity of something like, say, I know it's been sounding daft, but something like Love Letter. Yeah. Well, you've got 4 people all sitting around the table. At any 3 points, there's probably one person there's one person that's worried that they've actually got the highest card, the princess card. You've got a couple of people that are wondering, do they play the guard card and try and throw somebody out, or do they try and negotiate or lie with somebody else? I don't think, or I've not seen a video game based around such a simple premise where you're kind of trading back and forward, but potentially you've got the capability to knock somebody out so kind of quick and simple. And I think
I've played things like Texas Hold'em online, because I don't know if you ever played Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah,
Richard. Because obviously you could go into free roam mode and you could just sit down and play the sort of pub games with other players in the world. And I used to play things like Texas Hold'em and Liar's Dice, and it's just not the same as playing a card game.
No.
With a group of people, because it becomes too easy to lie.
Yeah, I think what you're working out, you're working out the tells, or you're working out what's going to happen with the computer, and then it becomes a statistical thing, and then you can end up winning kind of 7 times out of 10 because you know how to almost cheat the program itself, But the other thing I prefer currently about tabletop over video games is it's the continuing lack of imagination, but video games, you don't seem to be seeing too many new things, and because they're so expensive, they're almost going the same way as movies. In that nobody, you do get independent publishers, but you're not going to get, say, a massive publisher doing something like, doing what you would see in an indie, like a Little Nightmares type game. I couldn't imagine a huge publisher doing that. Whereas board games, if you think about it, we've got really, really big heavy hitters out there that are just taking risks and releasing kind of any type of game at all once they've been established, once they're kind of publishing. I mean, I was looking, I got kind of Dinosaur Island delivered, which is John Gilmore's kind of latest effort. But it's a complete, it's a build your own Jurassic Park, kind of manage that. Yeah. And it's like the last time I saw something like that, I mean, if you're in The Sims or something like that, then that's fine and that's well established. I couldn't really imagine a kind of a dinosaur park management sim coming out from a relatively well-known, designer, video game designer, deciding to take kind of that level of risks. I mean, we can cite Mario Odyssey and say, well, but Mario Odyssey, that's innovative and amazing. It's like, well, technically it's a Mario game and they've just decided to introduce a much more interesting mechanic in terms of the hat. It's not like he's come out with a completely different game kind of altogether that completely throws the IP into something else. And that's what continues to excite me about the world of tabletop, is that if I, especially if I look on, say, like Kickstarter, you've got Newspeak that's come out today, and I'm dating this.
I saw that, yeah.
Inside the Box board games, and I'm looking at that and going, well, what is it? And it's like, well, it's a game about code breaking. And it's like, okay, well, give me 2 more sentences about what it's about. And it's like, I can't explain it in 2 sentences. And it's like, that's good. That's excellent. I want that in a tabletop. I don't want somebody being able to, I think at the point where tabletop games become so generic that you're able to maybe explain new concepts in just 1 sentence is when they're veering towards kind of like maybe becoming a bit more restricted. Like, say, I mean, I don't know if you guys have, I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn, yeah? Now I could say it's an open world, third person exploration game with mechanical dinosaurs. And you kind of know exactly what that is. But if you're trying to explain, well, Dinosaur Island, well, it's a worker placement game where you're also kind of trying to develop rides through worker placement, through resource management, through buying cars, and then you have to kind of go into a bigger explanation. I'd love to. It's the same when Newspeak. I have no idea what that game is about, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to read a paragraph to find out kind of what it's like, and that's kind of what excites me about kind of tabletop. At the moment, though, guys, what's been exciting you in the world of tabletop? There's a segue.
Yes. I mean, we've just come out of Christmas, and I'm a December birthday as well. So
what day?
I've got a ton of nerdy stuff to play with.
When's your birthday roughly?
It was December 9th.
Oh, mine's the 21st. So.
Oh, you're much closer to Christmas.
Oh, yeah. So
do you have to yell at people who try and give you a birthday and Christmas present joined as one?
I generally don't speak to those people anymore.
Yes, I don't need that kind of negativity in my life.
Exactly. It's not like I come along and give you one present because your thing's close to Easter. Here, have a Cadbury's cream egg because you're born in April. There you go. How about that for you? Do you know what I mean?
Let's see. So we've got quite a lot of Games Workshop stuff. Warhammer Underworld Shadespire, to give it its full title.
Yeah.
We have been playing a lot of it. We're actually off to Common Ground Games in Stirling this Saturday.
So it'll be Saturday the 27th.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Saturday the 27th.
Yeah.
Because we're in a meta game of 2 people at the moment, Ben and I. So it'll be, but we're both really enjoying that.
It's the thing that's quite good about it is that lately you'd been playing a lot more Magic,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd been playing a lot more Age of Sigmar. And this feels as though it's sort of bridging the
kind
gap.
of like the mix of the two.
Because you've got the miniature game, but then you've got the deck building alongside it.
So what if you haven't seen what the game is? It's an arena combat game based on hexes, and you'll choose a fixed war band. So undead, for example, or orcs or whatever. Now, your fighters are set in stone. You have to take whatever the fighters are. What you can alter and tweak are the decks. You've got 2 decks. You've got a deck of objective cards. Mm-hmm. So, quite simply, do the thing it says on the card. You score some points for doing that. And then you've got your power deck as well, which is full of upgrades for your fighters that you can buy throughout the game, or ploy cards, which will say do a certain thing.
Nasty little tricks and things you can play that interact with your characters.
And it's building those decks is where you can sort of leverage advantages over an opponent, or just absolutely fall apart. I'm not sure if I'm in the right direction with what I've built, but we'll find out more on Saturday.
I take it it's got a large meta game. I mean, because Magic is all about. I think Magic is all about the Magic. I think it's opportunity, isn't it? It's taking the deck that you have and making the best with it. Are you expecting to get utterly dominated and destroyed at the weekend when you go and play?
Yes.
At least you're a realist.
Ben's a lot more optimistic. I on the other hand,
starting at 3 and finishing at 15:15 kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. Do you read Penny Arcade?
Yes, I have. Yeah, there's.
They do this one comic which was about War Machine, and it was one of the guys going to a gaming club with his War Machine list. I'm going to one of the experienced players. All right, yeah. Let's have a look at your list. Oh, you're taking that. Well, what about that? No, I wouldn't have done. No, this list's terrible. And the main character just goes, all right, shall we just call it there? Yeah, good game. I'm kind of expecting a little bit of that. But we'll see. But that's, do you know, what's fun about this is, often with Magic the Gathering, it's in standard quite often, in modern, almost all the time, you get very established metagames, so you know what deck you're supposed to be building. Yeah. With this, I don't know. And this is, part of the joy is sort of, there's no way that this, I can say this without it sounding cheesy, but part of the joy is discovering, for yourself, what works, what doesn't. Maybe I should do this, or should I do that? And that's what we're really enjoying about. I mean, you've kind of got your Orc War band down to a T.
I think so. When I first approached the Orc War band, I thought, all right, okay, these guys are good at killing things. It's standard Orc fare. But there's actually quite a bit of nuance to all of the war bands, I think we've discovered. And one of the things that the Orcs are really good at is just disrupting what the other player's trying to do.
Ruining my plans.
Yeah.
So,
no, you weren't supposed to do that! Why have you done that?
No. I think what's interesting is it depends how it develops, because one of the things I've seen about X-Wing, and the tournaments still go on, is how do you keep it fresh and interesting once you've got that meta? Now with X-Wing, they keep releasing more and more ships, to the point that they're kind of, they're going to be releasing the little kind of hang glider that the Ewoks used in Return of the Jedi. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
Well, knowing one thing about Star Wars, there is an endless iteration of X-Wings and TIE fighters, so they'll still be going for some years, but... Yeah. I would like to see the Ewoks in space.
Ewoks in space. That'd be so cool. As long as it wasn't kind of like the terrible Ewoks cartoon that used to be aired many years ago.
I have never watched it.
Save your eyes and don't bother. You're not missing anything. It's almost as bad as the droids cartoon series. It was everybody. I mean, everybody goes on about, the Star Wars franchise went on for ages, and there was a Droids cartoon. Let's not even go near the Caravan of Courage live action film where they had, was it Wicket talking? Oh yes. My days.
And the notorious holiday special as well. George Lucas has done a sterling effort of erasing all of that from history.
He's totally brilliant. It's like George Orwell. It's like, the Christmas Star Wars holiday special, never existed. It's never ever existed. No, that's just, that's random footage.
You just pop the DVD in and the word redacted just comes up on the screen.
If you can get it on DVD. I don't know if they ever gave it the DVD or the Blu-ray treatment. I do,
well, they should.
As a quick, I think, as a quick shout out, my friends Brian Wade, who runs the Expanded Universe cast, if you are interested in the Star Wars holiday special, he covered it on a recent show. And
oh wow!
And so Leia sings at the end of it.
Yes, she sings. She sings the Star Wars theme tune with words.
So
I know. It's as awful as it sounds.
Exactly. Chewie's got a kid called Lumpy.
The thing I loved about it, like the clip that I've seen, was a utterly dejected looking Harrison Ford speaking to Chewbacca. All right, Chewie, we're on our way there. Yes, I know it's an important day.
I watched like 10 minutes. I watched the first 10 minutes, and the first 10 minutes there's no dialogue in it because it's just the Wookiees barking at each other. And you're meant to somehow kind of get an idea of what they're talking about because they're going, and you're like going, what? But that is the whole thing, the whole way through. But, obviously maybe we might see maybe they might do an X-Wing Star Wars holiday special and bring back Lumpy flying like a Millennium Falcon or something like that, because that would be fantastic. No, my point is, we'll see. Is Shadespire, is it the type of thing where they're going to be able to release... Are you going to get different decks? I mean, this is where...
Yeah, so they've done it in the style of a living card game, much like the recent iteration of Netrunner or the Game of Thrones card game, where it's not booster packs. Yeah. You just buy an expansion and the cards are in there.
But it's kind of somewhere between that and X-Wing, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of feels a bit like that. Yeah. So you basically you'll buy your war band, and there'll be a certain number. They usually have like a pre-made deck in there, and then some extra cards.
So like half of the deck is specific to that war band, and then the other half you could mix and match with any other war band.
And it's actually for Games Workshop pretty affordable pricing. The war bands are £17.50 each.
No way.
Right. So, yeah. And then, you get, the undead one, you get 7 models in.
Considering, like, Space Marine captains are like 20 quid nowadays.
Right. So, and that's quite a good buying proposition. As a consumer, I'm now thinking, oh, well, I may as well just get each warband as it comes out and just give them a go. And then I've got some spares around if someone fancies trying it.
Yeah, I think...
And I'm probably going to spend a lot more as a consequence.
Yep.
It's kind of going back to the whole microtransactions, isn't it? I mean, we're all kind of shouting and screaming at video games and microtransactions, but if you think about Magic the Gathering...
Magic the Gathering, I maintain Magic the Gathering invented the microtransaction.
DLC.
Someone's probably gonna get in touch and correct me on this, but I think Magic the Gathering, well, I mean, it is the first collectible trading card game, so it was the first one that came up with the idea of the booster pack.
It is a loot box.
That really cheap little, it is, it's a loot box. And you get, there's some channels on YouTube that are just guys opening packs of Magic the Gathering cards and seeing what they open and probably wasting so much money.
But there's that guy that opened the black. Was it the Black Lotus card? There's that famous video.
I actually subscribe to his channel. It's Vintage Magic.
Oh, Josh.
And it's yeah. I remember seeing that. It's so funny though, because he wears like the latex gloves because he's opening a pack of alpha.
And there's a pervert, obviously.
Yeah, the latex gloves had nothing to do with the cards. He just happened to have them on.
What he was doing. What he was doing before.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, sorry, these are still on. I must have forgotten to take them off.
Oh well. Beyond the point, no return now. And you can, because before he opens a card called Tropical Island, which is quite an expensive card in its own right.
Yeah.
An Alpha Tropical Island probably goes like thousands, but he opens the Black Lotus, which at the time was valued. I think the most recent Alpha Lotus that was in pristine condition sold for something like $30,000. At that point, and he's obviously aware of this because you can see at the moment he realizes what he's opened, the hands all over the place, right? And who can blame him if you're holding what is effectively the value of like a mid-priced car in your hands? You'd be terrified.
Yeah, do you know what would be terrified is the fact if this was 25 years ago, you'd be holding in your hands the price of a decent one-bedroom house. I mean,
that's depressing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember reading this poster. This was actually 10 years ago. It was we're going to get off topic here, but I'm assuming this is fine.
There is no show notes.
Yeah.
These aren't the show notes you're looking for.
So, so I was down. I was visiting a friend of mine in Sevenoaks down in Kent. And in the train station, they had a poster. It was Shelter, and it said if the price of chicken had inflated at the same rate that the price of property has inflated, a whole chicken would cost you £40 from a supermarket. Now, that's absurd.
Is that with the coleslaw? Because the coleslaw, I mean, especially if you get the nice creamy stuff. I'm talking about Tesco's Finest. I mean, that's a couple of quid.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it is still just cabbage, onion, and mayonnaise.
That's really nice. It's really.
You mean
really
I
nice
can make this myself?
I don't know.
I thought it just somehow came in those pots.
I thought it grew on trees. I thought you kind of collect it from the underside of certain trees. You just got coleslaw, and they used to farm it.
No, it's you get coleslaw mines.
Slaw mines.
Yeah. So coleslaw fracking's a huge problem now, you know.
Particularly in the northwest of England.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I hear Bez from the Happy Mondays was running for Parliament to protest it.
Stop coleslaw fracking.
I mean, we all like coleslaw.
But enough is enough. Oh dear, you're right. No, you've lost it. We've gone. No,
I know.
Shadespire. It's good. You're about to get destroyed at Shadespire.
I'm about to get my teeth kicked in at Shadespire. Ben is
about to kick someone's teeth in at Shadespire.
Possibly mine. But we're going to enjoy it though. It's.
I'm now going to get destroyed for having said that.
Because it's on. I'll tell you what. We'll release the episode after. What happens?
There we go. Save some pride.
Yeah, exactly. So you can say what we can do is if you record, you can just record right now. I'm going to win really convincingly, and then if you're going to record and say I'm going to lose really convincingly, and then what I can do is if you send me a message on the day of what actually happened, then I can cut that bit in. So
there we go. It's like a choose your own adventure in the form of a podcast.
Go on page 142. Sorry, you've died.
No, back. I don't go down the well.
There we go. Cheater Josh, choose your own adventure games. Evidence gathered and in conviction found. Basically,
am I on the trial?
You pretty much. Did you? I bet you're the type of person you four-fingered a book, basically. That you had like the original page you started on, and then you had the 3 or 4 choices, and you would read the 3 or 4 choices and then decide from there which one you were going to go, didn't you?
Pretty much, yeah.
Just shocking behaviour.
I know.
What
not in the spirit.
What else you looking forward to? What else you interested in? Did you ever make a decision on the Gloomhaven question? Because I know you kind of brought it up in one of the recent episodes, which was the Paris Syndrome episode. And if you've not listened, give it a listen. See, I told you I listened. But
yes.
You basically,
I'm impressed.
you basically gave the, you basically kind of put the situation that you weren't sure about Gloomhaven if it was going to actually live up to the hype, because it has been so hyped.
Absolutely,
I think Isaac released an update on the, he released an update in his general newsletter actually. He said, he's late, kind of releasing his latest Happy New Year newsletter, but he says, I can't believe it. I've achieved what I always wanted in my life, which was to be number one on the kind of the track for Board Game Geek, which is an achievement. So well done for that. But
yeah,
obviously,
absolutely.
Your question was, if you're spending 130 quid on a game, how good does a game have to be to warrant that amount? I mean, is it worthwhile? I mean, as a quick aside, guys, I mean, in the game, we've not talked about sizes of game collections. I'm assuming that you've both got reasonable size collections, at least maybe about 25 games.
I would say we're comfortably in the midpoint.
Right.
We're not like some friends of ours I know have, but I mean,
I was going to say, if you count the Warhammer stuff, it's a lot.
I mean, I know some guys where we're approaching intervention stage.
Yeah.
Now with buying habits, but we still haven't tracked down a copy of Gloomhaven, and
I mean, unless anyone knows otherwise. All I've seen now is the sort of eBay scalpers, people like that.
I was just going to say,
it way up past that 130.
I believe you have to give up a kidney to get one, and me and Ben are kind of locked in some weird game of chicken now.
See who goes first.
To see, right? You know, we really want to play Gloomhaven. Do you need both? Do you need both kidneys?
It was on Chaos Cards, I think. I think I saw it because I got an alert. Because I was in the same thing. I got an alert. I mean, ages and ages ago. Because I think what happened was a lot of retailers went, "Yep, I'm going to kind of put in my order for Gloomhaven," and then with the stocking issues and everything like that, they just, I mean, it's really, really successful. They didn't have enough stock to hang round, so they had to kind of cancel some pre-orders for some people, but it was on Chaos Cards for about £140. There's part of me that's sitting there thinking, I don't need it because Colin's got a copy. And the worst thing the situation is that it's a typical D&D campaign. It is not a game that I reckon you can get to the table and play once. I mean, me and Colin, we played Catacombs and Castles, we played Elser games, and we gushed about it. It was fantastic. And I played it at the weekend with the kids, and they thought it was an awful lot of good fun. I'm probably going to get to the table an awful lot more times, because it's a game that's clicked, it's a lot of fun, it's really easy to play. Then things like Dice Forge, I'm like, yeah, I can kind of get that to the table. One of the things that put me off Gloomhaven is it's the commitment. It's like, can I get 3 or 4 people together with their characters? And I like the fact you can put your characters in a box and you can keep all their skills so you can bring them out what's necessary. But generally the thing that kind of kills off a lot of Dungeons and Dragons games is people just having to turn around and they can't commit. They've got to, to quit. So
it is gargantuan as well. It's worth saying with Gloomhaven, so it takes a long time to set up.
Yeah. It's sorry, on you go, Richard.
I was going to say it's huge. Colin says, because the last time we recorded, he says, so okay, is that you heading off? Yep. Show me the box. Gonna see the box. And he brought out the Gloomhaven box. Now, there's big boxes out there, but I think what you're not prepared for in Gloomhaven is the actual height of the box. you're looking at something which is a decent toolbox size. I mean, you could get a hammer and you could get a saw and you could get a very, very respectable DIY set inside a Gloomhaven box, because the box is huge.
It's I've seen it on reviews, and it's as tall as it is wide. It's a cube, not a box.
No,
and it's funny you say that, because I feel the same way about the Twilight Imperium games. They totally the sort of game I would love to play, but in the back of my mind, I've got 130 quid. Takes about 6 hours to play a game.
Yeah.
Are you gonna sink that money and play it once?
I mean, that's what concerns me.
Unfortunately, being an adult sucks, right?
Yeah.
We have to do this work thing.
I know.
And then we've got bills to pay and a mortgage or rent to pay, and you have to be smart with your time and with your money.
Well, it's even like I was showing you a few of the Kickstarters that are on just now, right before we came on the podcast, Josh. And one of the ones that looks really interesting is one that you've I don't know if you've maybe seen it, Richard, Nemesis.
Yes.
Which it looks kind of like in my crude dialect, I would describe it as almost like an amalgamation of the Evolve video game and Space Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
something like that.
Yeah, it looks absolutely like that. It's it's kind of interesting that you do the explore mechanics. So you've got tiles on there and you explore, and then you've got the ability for people to be kind of, the ability for people to be infected and to become kind of bad guys, and the miniatures and everything are there. And I jumped in, and then I jumped out again. And you know what? I kind of thought about it, and then I kind of went, I'm having to be, I don't know, I'm getting to the point where, see, last year it was kind of like I was chucking a buck in a lot of places and just keeping up with the campaign, and then I kind of jumped in with a couple of things, but not an awful lot. And this year I'm kind of thinking, I'm still interested to see what's happening, but I'm also kind of going to be strict and just kind of pull back a bit, there's a big enough group, there's enough people that I know that if I really, really want to play a game, I'm probably going to be in the situation where somebody else will have it, somebody will fall back and I'll get a hold of it. And unfortunately, I know of a lot of people that have got Kickstarters that have just stayed on the shelf, that they haven't played them, they've got them through. It's almost like the excitement of taking part in the campaign is enough for them at the time. And then once it wears off and once it goes away, I mean, Seventh Continent. I mean, I know there's Seventh Continent, such a buzz. You got to see this game. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's never going to be coming anywhere except Kickstarter. You got to jump in with both feet. And I just passed it by because I thought, do you know what? That's a big commitment for me. It's a big commitment for something I can't guarantee I've got to play. Kind of
well, Nemesis, I mean, it's not quite as expensive as Twilight Haven. Twilight Haven.
We just mashed the two together.
It's not as expensive as Twilight Imperium or Gloomhaven, but I looked at the lowest pledge because I'm a cheapskate, and it was like a £70 minimum if you actually wanted to get.
Actually get the game.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the shipping. It was like £25. So it's because this is the thing that that's quite annoying with Kickstarter, is that a lot of the time you don't actually know how much shipping you're going to pay until the end of the thing, and sometimes, depending on where it comes from, you can almost end up paying as much in shipping as you do for the item.
Right. Let's touch on that for a second, because part of my job is I help businesses with logistics and shipping, and a lot of Amazon. And the reason that board game companies and general companies are stepping away from the free shipping or shipping included option on the likes of Kickstarter, and even in some ways in Amazon, is that if you pick a funding target of say £50,000, and you're including shipping in your pledge, then Kickstarter will take a cut of that whole £50,000.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get a good deal on shipping, if you say to people, right, okay, it is, if you say to somebody it is £70 for the base pledge and it's £25 for the, say it's £25 for the shipping, you say, okay, that's £95. That's a huge chunk. The problem is that Kickstarter are taking a slice of that £95, which includes the contribution towards the shipping. I see it on Amazon all the time. Is that any time that you see somebody saying, "Oh, you should offer free shipping," and the reason that you see so many people still saying, if you want to buy, say, Dice Forge on Amazon, you'll get some people that will sell it at £25. You'll get some people that will sell it at £22 plus £3 shipping. And the reason the guys sell it at £22 plus £3 shipping is because they don't get a charge by Amazon for the £3 shipping.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
why that makes sense.
So that's why it's built in. So yes, I can see, the kind of the consumer part of me thinks, but I'm pledging £70 for this, but you're going to lop another £25, and I don't know when, because this is another conversation about pledge managers and when they charge people, and some people aren't set on when they charge, and they keep it kind of like a floating thing, so that somebody will say, oh, we're definitely shutting the pledge manager down in the middle of February, but then what they realise is that they're still getting a strong enough level of orders up to the 10th of February, so they say, well, tell you what, we'll keep it open for another couple of weeks. So people end up in the situation where maybe they don't know when they're getting charged, and I think that's maybe part of the annoyance. So from a business point of view, I can totally see why people charge for their shipping after the Kickstarter, because potentially if that £25 is essentially almost 22% of what you're taking on Kickstarter.
Oh no, I appreciate that it's another overhead for them, but it for me it was the reason that I declined to jump in on the Nemesis Kickstarter was I'm already paying 70, and to be fair, they were quite upfront about what they wanted to charge for shipping, and it's 95 for board games, quite a lot.
It's when you start to justify it. I suppose Games Workshop have always got away reasonably with it, because I guess 9 times out of 10 when you're looking at a Games Workshop piece, you're looking at it in a retail store. So when you're looking at Age of Sigmar and you're looking at £75, I guess you can get it there and then. And maybe that's the Kickstarter thing. Maybe that is the Kickstarter effect, is that when you're pledging for an item, you're not necessarily paying for it there and then.
Yeah,
you maybe have to plan out.
We very early on in the podcast we did an entire episode discussing Kickstarter, and this is exactly one of the points we make. I think a lot of people don't realise you're not buying a product when you pledge for something in Kickstarter. You were investing in something, and in terms of consumer protection, very different implications for that. They're not guaranteed to give you that product anymore. I mean, they often do if they meet their funding requirements. But you hear plenty of stories of Kickstarters that go, I mean, well, Ben, you've experienced this firsthand. Kickstarters that go wrong, and you just, that's it, that's your money gone. And you've got no recourse.
Very frustrating as well.
Yeah, you've got no recourse. So, and look, Kickstarter's a great thing, right? It's provided an opportunity, not just for tabletop game designers, but video game designers, film creators, anyone in the sort of creative...
It's been a bit of a double edge, though, hasn't it?
Well,
because at the same time, like you do, I mean, we obviously understand that, as you said, when you support a Kickstarter project, you're not buying that item. But at the same time, the problem is companies like Cool Mini or Not have fudged the lines there.
Yeah,
by essentially using Kickstarter as a pre-order service.
And I really question. Kickstart wasn't meant for the likes of Cool Mini or Not. Maybe when they were starting.
Well, I mean, the name says it all. It's for like small independent businesses to get them started. A big publisher like Cool Mini or Not does have enough.
It's
money
really interesting because Fantasy Flight, with their recent release of Twilight Imperium, they were considering using Kickstarter and decided against it. They ultimately came to the conclusion Kickstarter is not for us. We're one of the big boys in this industry.
Yeah, but was it not also the case? Was there not the thing about the kind of the magic alike that kind of was hit Kickstarter earlier on this year, or last year? Sorry, 2017. Which the funding budget was like something about $200,000. I mean, they were looking for money and then some, because I think they were gonna, it was gonna be a new fantasy card game in a similar vein to kind of Magic.
What was the name of it?
I can't remember, because I looked at it and I just went,
"Seen this before."
I don't know. I think it had the intentions of seeing, let's test the market and see if the market would hold it up. And I think that all they got in the comment section was, "You'll never even touch $200,000. You'll not even get near $200,000." So I don't know if they pulled the plug on it. I remember watching it and saying, "This will be interesting," kind of thing.
Yeah. If that was their first Kickstarter, I have no idea what they were thinking.
I don't know if it was. I think it was just a case of them trying something and seeing if it would stick, and seeing what the general kind of interest is. It's really strange, because I've been on both sides of this. I've had good old David Carroll from Steamforge Games. He's been on the show, and Steamforge, all they have done is always been they've done a lot of Kickstarter. I had Matt Gilbert from Mantic Games, and they, obviously everything that they've done has also been, the King Saga, the Dungeon Saga, their latest one, Star Saga. That was all a Kickstarter event. So it's kind of strange, because you hear to them and they're saying, we desperately, some of them say, we desperately would like to move to a retail, to kind of like a retail model, a distribution model, like Jamie Stegmaier did with Charterstone. That's you can stand up and salute everybody and say he did a damn fine job on getting that game out the door and getting it in people's hands, because it seems to be a success. But I think people like Mantic, Matt Gilbert and Mantic said, listen, they'd love to go down the retail model, but the risk involved, especially if you're doing miniatures and stuff like that. Yes, you usually have money in the bank, but then I guess the difference between Kickstarter, him hitting Kickstarter and him hitting retail, is if they've got to make 20,000 copies, they're making 20,000 copies out of their own pocket, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It completely eliminates the risk on the part of the publisher. So I do understand, and like you're saying as well, when you start to factor in miniatures, right away your production costs shoot way up.
Oh yeah.
So
totally.
it's a real grey area, I think, because it's on the one hand, part of me is like, Cool Mini or not have been churning games out over this past 2 years, sometimes eclipsing some of the smaller projects.
I mean, I've seen. I joked with. I had. Who did I have? Recently, a couple of episodes we were talking about kind of hate coming out, and the joke being that anybody that was thinking about releasing a Kickstarter in the first month of January was going to be up against something like that. But I guess you build to your audience. There's always going to be a CMON audience that are there ready to throw money at it. It's interestingly enough that hate itself has come up under a bit of fire of people saying, well, this is just a 2-player game where the other 2 players have to sit out and wait their turn. Where's the kind of the fun in that? So I've already kind of covered that. I don't know, would splitting Kickstarter into 2 camps, would that work? I don't know if it would.
I don't know if it would, and I think this is the thing, that you do have to accept that there is this double edge to Kickstarter, that where it does provide brand new fresh-faced creators a place to launch the product. At the same time, I think you maybe do have to let the big fish in to get their share of the market. And like you're saying as well, at the same time, it does mean that it's eliminating the risk there. So it means that you're still getting good games out of it. But Just when you're talking about hate there, it's one that I was quite interested in because I have read the graphic novel.
Right.
And being a huge Warhammer nerd, I'm a big fan of Adrian Smith's artwork because he did all the old Warriors of Chaos art. But I think that making hate Kickstarter exclusive, it crosses the boundary out of the grey area, and I think that that's wrong because it's totally feeding that fear of missing out that verges on addiction for some people.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and also going back to the kind of the video game kind of comparison is they have a tendency to kind of have DLC, day one DLC available for their game, which they slice off in the format of expansions and then charge extra money for it. And on video games, that's something that gets screamed out by editorials and thought pieces and stuff like that about how can a video game company, spend obviously the programming time and design time and then at the end of it carve it off and then sell it off as a kind of a day one DLC extra exclusive kind of give us some more money thing. And yet on the other side, board games seem to be doing quite well with kind of getting away with it for the moment. But we'll see.
The press in the sphere of tabletop's a lot less well established. I think is fair to say.
I think they're gentler. I think they're still finding their teeth, and I also think that the difference. Okay, here's the difference between the video game press and the board game press is the barrier for entry when people were going to be part of the video game press was so much higher because you had to have a magazine, and then websites came in after that. In terms of the board game press, I mean, you've got Tabletop Gaming Magazine, any other, there isn't any others. I mean, most
maybe
of
Geek and Sundry, that's about it.
Yeah, and can you even count White Dwarf anymore? I mean, for all that they are putting in,
it's an in-house publication.
Yeah,
so.
we were applauding them for starting with the short stories again, but ultimately, as you say, Ben, it's an in-house publication, so it's it's not going to be the best for a critical eye.
Yeah. And at the moment, with all these people finding their feet, do you really want to be the guy? Would we be the guy that would stand on the parapet and shout out, actually, Charterstone, it's pretty rubbish, I don't like it, it's too cutesy, because we're still finding our critical feet with board game media. I think there's still few people that want to put their head above the parapet and be really, really stick their claws into something without having a bit of a backlash.
Well, part of the problem is that because it's such a small community, we all know each other.
Yeah, I know.
And you're more likely to be sensitive towards someone that you actually care about as a person. Whereas a lot of the time, if you're reviewing a video game, you're like, I don't know these people. This is trash.
It's cool. I mean, let's face it. You're still. I mean, I can email John Gilmore today and say, "All right, mate, how's it going? Just got a copy of Dinosaur Island here. Just wanted you to know it's like this, and this," and you'll have a conversation about it. Video game stuff, they've got PR, they've got the wall of PR there. So if I wanted to kind of I can't email Shigeru Miyamoto and tell him, listen, that Mario Odyssey, mate, top stuff. It'll go through the Nintendo PR machine, probably a UK PR machine. And there'll be no direct contact with the developer. So yeah, you're completely right. There still is that kind of content. I mean, speaking of content, Okay, two questions. Okay, what moves you from kind of obviously playing the games for, because it sounds obviously you guys sound like you've known each other for quite some time now. What made you decide, actually, you know what, let's go out there and make yourselves a podcast? Obviously, apart from the fact there was there was two other bits of competition in Scotland out there. One of them, neither of us have spoken to, and then you were going up against us. You must have listened and went, this is easy. We'll corner the Scottish market. We'll even we'll bring an Englishman in as well.
Yeah,
that's
our niche.
We'll add insult to injury. Bring an Englishman in. Yeah.
No, I think, for me, we had talked about doing this sort of thing. We've talked about doing it endlessly. It was a while back. It was going to be a Warhammer only podcast, and then it kind of it was one of these things where we talked endlessly about doing it, but never actually did it. And I think it's Charlotte who does all of our social media, and Ben's wife. Yeah. She actually brought the Blue Yeti mic from her office, from where she works in, and just said, right, do it. So we did it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hello to Charlotte as well. Hats off to her, because she does a sterling job of keeping you boys in check, obviously.
Absolutely, and I don't mind admitting, the first time I started to feel a little old was when I first heard about Twitter. And that was 10 years ago, right? So I wasn't even that old at that point, but even then I was like, I don't get this. Oh, I'm getting on. Like, but Charlotte does an amazing job of looking after our Twitter feed and
social media mogul.
Yes, looks after all the medias for us. But no, to be honest, there wasn't an awful lot of foreplanning. Really, we got the mic. We knew we were going to talk a bit about. Guys, it feels like ages ago now, but we were talking about the lawsuit that was being taken out against Games Workshop by this guy in Florida.
Because I think one of the things that we did decide quite early on was that we didn't want to emphasise doing reviews as much.
No.
Because there's a lot of people doing reviews.
There's a lot of people do it, and a lot of people do it well.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to get in on that. To the point, actually, so we're quite guilty for the gaming press not having its teeth, because we have played games where we've gone, this is bad, but let's not talk about it, because someone's poured their heart and soul into this, and to just trash talk it on the internet.
At the same time, though, that they were playtests.
Exactly,
it's a whole different ballgame, because there's a degree of confidentiality there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's a test build.
Yeah.
But, I'm slightly dreading the day that I get handed a game where someone asks me to review it and I have to pan it.
Yeah. Fortunately, the vast majority of the games we play we've enjoyed them.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So that's lucky.
But is that not the case that you guys you're still buying the stuff yourself then? So you're obviously making, in some cases, a little bit of a buying decision. I mean, we're the same. I mean, we occasionally we get offered, and I don't know if it's some kind of currency or what else we're missing out on, other free stuff, but we'll speak to people and they'll say, oh, well, give me your address and I'll send you a copy of the game. And we're like, well, no, that's not how it works. We don't we'll speak to guys that are in the community, and we'll speak to guys that are doing Kickstarters, but we'll never actually do a review of a game. You'll hear me and Colin talk about it, but when we talk about a game, it's kind of like, it's kind of like first impressions usually, because usually it's not a case that we've gone in and we don't do a thorough review. We tell people what the game is like, we tell people what we thought about it. We don't go in and we say, right, okay, you need to definitely buy this, except when we did Catacombs. And I think there was a couple of, I think Whitechapel was maybe the other one where I just went, I love this, go out and get it immediately.
Yeah, Whitechapel's absolutely fantastic.
It's one of Charlotte's favourites.
We don't play that game enough, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
It's brilliant.
We do. I don't know. We talk about what we've been playing, and I suppose the closest thing we've come to a review was when we were talking about Legendary.
Yeah.
Right. But that was interesting because we had very different opinions on it. So it was.
But I think that's quite an interesting way of doing a review. Is rather than just having one person give their appraisal of it, is have the perspectives of two different people of this same thing, and how they differed, and how those people reacted to it. Because the fact of the matter is that we've probably all read a review where someone has absolutely panned a game that we actually quite liked,
or vice versa.
Yeah,
Yeah. I kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm in the field of one by myself when I said I never got on with Terraforming Mars, and I'm still to this day befuddled by the absolute praise that it got. Because when I'm looking at, I'm turning around, right, and I'll tell you what, I've been gently. I've got a lovely, beautiful. I usually put my my mic on top of a box. And today it's King Domino, and I'm just looking at that, and I'm just looking. Okay, so it's not as involved as Terraforming Mars, okay? But then I'm looking at, like, I'm turning around here again, and oh my goodness, if you could feel the weight of this beast. I've got this Dinosaur Island here. It's got a UV finish on the box. You open it up. The production quality is fantastic.
Did it have that new game smell?
I'm saving it for myself. I'm just going to open it up slightly and get a straw and breathe.
Just going to give it a good huff.
Oh yeah, just like that, ready and breathe, and then oh yes, that kind of thing. But Terraforming Mars, one of the things that let me down is when I don't know. Am I assuming quality of components versus the quality of the game? I guess I am, based on all the hype and everything that I'd heard. Am I a snob for thinking that I don't know. I didn't like it at the time. I didn't like the drafting mechanic in it. I didn't get the hype with it. It turned into a runaway game at the end. It didn't make any sense. Some of the rules weren't kind of, I guess, explained properly at the time, so that led to the final decisions where you were kind of like pitching to get extra points and stuff like that didn't kind of work out. I don't know. See, when you're playing Whitechapel, yeah, and you're into like the second round, and they've had a successful first run, and whether you're the police or whether you're Jack, you're kind of going, there's an atmosphere now. There's actually a definite atmosphere. There's a feeling between the people in the police that are playing the police and the people that are playing Jack the Ripper. It's the same when you're playing Mysterium, so I'm trying to figure this out. I don't know what's going on. It's the same when you were playing, there's countless other games that we've played, like Clank, where you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get really involved. Terraforming Mars kind of, I don't know if I was just the mood I was in, but it was just the way it was explained, the setup, just everything. I just sat there and went, I've got 50 million cards in front of me, and there's too many times where people were getting to the end of their turn and went, I should have done, and not because, and let me get this straight, not because the game, they hadn't learned the rules or they hadn't been paying attention. The game made it very, very tricky for them to pay attention. And there's you read this on accessibility as the ability for somebody to be able to play a game and not maybe have to hold 50 million cards, but also be able to look at the kind of the landscape of opportunity that they have in front of them and be able to kind of, I guess, plan and kind of do the best with what the resources that they've got in front of them. And there was too many times where I think people were almost overwhelmed. There wasn't an easy way. There wasn't a control on the resources. If they had laid that down and says, okay, rather than you have as many cards as you want, because people did end up having entire tableaus of cards, they were saying it's restricted to 10 and you can change in and change out kind of what you want. I just, I don't know. It's my big rant. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. So, a couple of things. I mean, we haven't played it.
No.
However, looking at it and...
I was just about to say, as a real sucker for theme and art style in games, it gives me cataracts just looking at it.
Yeah, it's... we differ on quite a lot of things in gaming, right? But one thing we both universally hold in quite high esteem is the aesthetics of a game. A game needs to look right. It needs to look good. Yeah. And Terraforming Mars, to me, do you know what really annoyed me? It was the stock photos on the cards.
It's not just that, though. Do you remember the old Heinemann textbooks that you got in maths at school? It looks like a page from that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's just,
I mean, this is us never touching like the game at all. I have heard
initial impressions are still valid though.
Yeah.
Because as much as people say never judge a book by its cover, you do. Mm-hmm. Everyone does. It's why art and design are so important to selling books and games.
And it's such a visual medium for a board game. I mean, let's face it, when you look at, say, like, when people looked at Charterstone for the first time, I hate bringing it up, Charterstone, Mechs versus Minions, oh my goodness. You look at that and you're just like, what? That's ridiculous. That's out the window. And just for a comparison, okay, just as a comparison, okay, Terraforming Mars was selling for 65, 70 quid, and you could pick up Mechs and Minions for less than that.
Yeah.
And that has minis in it as well.
And when you're putting that side by side, and if I'm taking the Pepsi challenge on this, I'm taking, the Mechs versus Minions box is a huge box, but what a box it is. I'm yet to play a game that runs over to you with the biggest, most comfortable jumper in the world and says, put that on, son. You put that on. No, you put that on, son. It's
put your
big and
feet up.
fluffy.
Come on,
on. And the next thing you know, it's rubbing your shoulders and say, look, we're going to play a game, but this is going to be the most easiest tutorial you've ever played in your life. And it has done such a fantastic job of doing that. So I'm comparing the two, and I can't, I'm finding it kind of really, really difficult. So maybe I'll give it another chance, but at the moment I'm thinking, well, there's other games that I can play. I've been in the same situation where we've put Clank on the table and we picked that up within 5 minutes. Even Power Grid. I mean, games, Power Grid and Dice Forge and all these other games that I've put on the table and been absolute delights with really decent production values, and I'm like, I'm going to get them to the table again. Sorry guys, I'm not going to leave kind of Terraforming Mars.
If something feels cheap, like to hold, that immediately turns you off the game. It could be one of the greatest designs ever.
As much as we have bashed them a bit in this podcast, Cool Mini or not, have that down to a T. The presentation thing, it's why they do so consistently well. Because you just look at it, and you think, I want that.
That looks great.
I don't care how it plays. I want that.
Even the Song of Fire and Ice stuff, though they obviously didn't have the license or decided to go against the license of using the likeness of the characters from the TV show, they still had high enough production values on it, so it was based around obviously the descriptions from the books. So it looked kind of really, really, really decent. But
that's very much on our radar this year.
Oh yeah, I fell for that one hook, line, and sinker. I'm a huge fan of the books, and a huge fan of wargaming. So,
incidentally, I do find it hilarious that Fantasy Flight. When did they first publish the first edition of the board game? Because it was well before the TV show came out. I think it was 2002 that they first published it.
I think so.
So can you imagine the Fantasy Flight's accounts department, like the moment that hit, the HBO series becomes a hit, and they just see this line down the page at F, just going like da-da-da-da-da.
It's just, I don't know, it's just interesting to see if they're going to be bringing on, what's going to happen in the future in relation to IPs. Are they going to start grabbing them? Because there's a lot of film, they're talking about the Thing being made into a board, was made into a board game. There was the Terminators Terminator one. Dwarf hosted the Batman board game, which I ran up and went, whoa, Batman board game, and then I realised it was kind of reskinned Conan, and I kind of went,
it's the same guys, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same guys. We'll see. I'm kind of willing to keep the eye open for the future. What about the future for yourselves, though? I mean, you're obviously going to continue with the podcast, and you bloody well should, because it's a really it's a really, really good show, and it's a nice little kind of drive. It doesn't, unlike us, it doesn't kind of, well, we never overstay our welcome anyway. We wait until people have talked themselves out and then take them down in a flurry of abuse. Yes. I mean, is it not? as a content creator, is it natural for you to think about kind of more creations? Are you thinking about, let's write some stuff down? Are you thinking about filming stuff? Are you thinking about doing kind of different films, things with the podcast? I mean, I know you had you had Mark on and you had the lovely Bez on as well. I mean, is there plans? Because there are guys that just, you do your thing, you plod along, and then the audience finds you. And we're lucky with that because that's what's happened to us. We've kind of plodded along, done our thing, and I've never kind of thought about kind of doing stuff differently. We've been very, very lucky with the people that we've had on. Yeah. But I don't know.
I mean, you've had quite a lot of like big names within gaming on the show, which is very impressive. So, I mean, for us, obviously,
we've always talked about it as being more of a gaming culture show, haven't we? Which would quite naturally translate well to a visual medium.
The ambition is there to start filming. Obviously, that requires a pretty decent investment. So obviously, it's something that we're gonna do in the future. As basically as and when one of us can afford to buy a decent video camera. But the thing is, with something like that, well, you could do it on a mobile phone, right? But we don't really want to do things by half measures. If we're going to make that leap to video, we want to make sure we've got decent kit for it as well.
Absolutely,
it's so funny because the bar is raised. I heard some people saying, well, the barrier for entry, and I've said it myself, the barrier for entry for being a content creator is very, very small. It's very easy to pick up, to get yourself a podcast host. It's very easy for you to record using a free program. It's really easy to stick a video on YouTube, but that's not where the money comes in. The money comes in making sure you've got a computer you can do the editing on, making sure you've got a right mic to do it. You might be using a podcast host, but do you use the podcast host that automatically puts everything everywhere, or do you use the cheap and cheerful one? So I think it's a barrier for entry that has kind of hidden small but ongoing costs, and I think it does. I'm always amazed by the number of people that kind of start content and then they disappear after about a year or two or something, and they seem to be doing very, very well, but then I think they reach a point where they're like, well, I think it depends what you're doing. I suppose it depends.
So, some of them do get headhunted by different companies and end up going into PR there. I've seen that happen a few times.
I've seen that happen within like the Magic the Gathering online community. I know that. It's I've completely lost my train of thought there.
I could see
like a total professional.
And you realise this isn't getting edited out. It's going to be.
I know,
it's going to be a bit where I'm just going to cut in and say, and this is where the Englishman makes a mistake. Yay!
Yay!
And then
or just add awkward silence.
Yeah,
exactly. Or we just say, just kind of voice over and say, and we had to cut this bit for extreme swearing. Sorry. I think you were saying the future, but I think you said the kind of like the kind of the video type thing, and then I kind of
video's the main thing. We've got other things. I mean, we're going to start going to more conventions this year. We're planning on being at Aircon, UK Games Expo, Tabletop Scotland. We had Dave from Tabletop Scotland on the show the other week. I believe he's been with you guys as well. So
just finished editing that little beauty, so that'll be going.
Yeah. So that's shaping up to be a really exciting convention as well.
Yeah.
And just keep I would say if anyone is trying to get into like podcast thing, is actually just do it and just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, just have a schedule and stick to it.
I would also say that don't be discouraged from getting into podcasting because you think that someone is already doing something that is too similar to what you want to do, because what you bring to that community is as unique as you are.
Mm-hmm.
You have insights and opinions that no one else does, and so your voice and your opinions, no matter who you are, will always add something to that community. So don't be discouraged because you think you're just going to be another clone of someone else, and just be yourself.
Be yourself, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you'll find your pace, and you'll find your own. You'll find your own particular kind of, I guess, story way of doing things, which is always, and it's always fun listening to have 3 or 4 different content creators all talk about the same game or the same experience is always kind of interesting because you always kind of learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, look at that time.
We've that's flown in.
Yeah.
I can believe that. You guys usually do about half hour.
I know. This is it's
we're
been
very
quite
quick fire normally.
It's been quite liberating though, just to take our time a bit.
This
time.
So like you've been on the ready break today or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
So, but thank you very much for having us. We'll have to return the favour as well and have you on the Unlucky Frog.
Oh my goodness!
It'll probably need to be a 4-parter or something if this is anything to go by.
You know me, I'm a man of very, very few words. He says, having realised he's recorded 187 hours of audio since he begun, which is enough for a week. But for people that have listened along tonight and they want to find out more about yourselves, where do you exist on the interweb nets?
Well, first of all, we've got our own website now, which the fabulous Charlotte has set up, and that's just unluckyfrog.com.
Yeah. And
from there you can get to I believe all of our episodes are up there.
They are. We host the episodes on Podbean.
They're so good.
Yeah, links to so many different websites. Ones we didn't realise they link to.
Yeah.
But we're also on iTunes. We have just got onto Google Play.
How did you manage that?
We pretended we were Canadian. I'm not actually joking.
I'm not. I know. I'm like, people have said, no, just use a VPN. Just do that because that's the only way you'll be able to get onto Google Play because they're not going to be rolling it out to the UK. Well, we might be on Spotify, so no.
Very good.
But you can get that. It's not exclusive because you can get that through Podbean as well. We just like to point out that other podcast hosts are available, but we're both using the same platform, so you know what I mean?
Yes.
If you don't like, sharing a bit of shop talk, then just skip forward 30 seconds. You'll be fine.
Yes.
We'll if you fast forward enough, we'll get into the Apple podcast joke, which I know is everybody's favourite. But yeah, you can apply for Spotify now if you go through your social media connection account on Podbean. You can actually request for that. So
we shall get on that then as well.
Absolutely. And obviously you guys are on Twitter and you're on Twitter.
I think that we are just.
Is it Unlucky Frog Gaming?
I think it is just as simple as that.
I will tell you.
See, I told you Charlotte dealt with all of this.
She's
Unlucky Frog.
At the Unlucky Frog.
The Unlucky Frog.
Yeah, on Twitter. Yeah. But all of these links to our various social media outlets are on unluckyfrog.com. So if you go there, that'll take you all across the internet.
There we go. That's our shilling done.
Yeah.
Shilled away. Yeah.
We'll probably get in trouble for not mentioning everything when Charlotte hears this.
Probably. Hi, Charlotte.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Charlotte. Thank you for putting up with these two. But no, if you haven't checked out the podcast, go back and listen to the podcast. If you've had enough of my voice, which I've no doubt you probably have by this time, you can probably actually mouth along the words that I'm going to be saying. Because it's not like, even though I don't use a script, it usually sounds like I am using a script. So, because I say the same things again and again and again. But jump on, give them a listen. The chat's nice, it's gentle, it's informative, it's a good fun. And it's another Scottish podcast for you, kind of ish. As I was joking as I was joking earlier on, it's kind of like they're kind of like the half-fat Scottish podcast. It's kind of like
We're working on my cultural integration.
Exactly.
I wore the kilt last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have tried square sausage.
There you go.
Although I do point out that by Oxford English Dictionary definition, square sausage is not a sausage. But that's a conversation
they would say
for another
that,
time.
though. They would say that.
That's a conversation for another time. I've drank Iron Brew. Yet to try Bucky.
I would probably stay away from that unless you want to get arrested and end up in a police cell with a traffic cone on your head. I'd probably stay away from that.
That's fair.
If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, and thank you for everybody that does, and thank you for everybody that has helped made 2018 so fantastic for us so far. You can find us on Twitter at We're Not Wizards. You can find us on Facebook at We're Not Wizards. We are on Instagram at We Are Not Wizards. If you go to YouTube, and as we say, we use Podbean for our podcast hosts. They're fantastic because every time we release an episode, it automatically goes onto YouTube. If you fancy going on and dropping a subscription on YouTube, because some people like to listen to the podcast on there for some reason, you can go to youtube.com/c/We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast. You can find us on the usual kind of podcast places. So you've got Stitcher and Spreaker and Acast and Podknife and potentially Spotify if they let us on. Potentially, it's crazy. You can obviously get us on Apple Podcasts as well. And as we say, if you like what you have listened to tonight, do us a favour. Jump on to search for We're Not Wizards and drop us a subscription. But make sure that you search for Unlucky Frog Gaming as well, because those guys are newly on iTunes as well, or newly on Apple Podcasts.
Please do.
And drop them a subscription too. If you like what you've listened to tonight, then feel free to kind of give us a rating or a review. If you are going to be giving us a rating, then make sure that you don't give us a 10, because that'll make us big-headed. But don't give us a 1, because that'll make us cry. Give us a 5, because it's in the middle, and it's average. And we are a little bit average. Make sure you give Unlucky Frog Gaming a 5 as well, because they're new, and they need a little bit of help getting
but not too
places
much
as well. Give them a 4.
I'm going to go out.
4.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I think we're all above average here.
I think that will. Yeah. Speak for yourself, but you know.
And blow my own trumpet, but no one else is going to.
I'm glad it's only Ben that's in the same room as you. And there's only a couple of things left to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Josh and Ben?
Well, so here's the question that I was going to ask. So
right.
We're not wizards.
Yes.
We're not wizards. So therefore, does that make me and Ben wizards?
No.
That's how double negatives work, right?
Well,
No.
I've got the beard for it, so I'm halfway there.
I can actually cancel this entire show, delete the recording, and effectively have lost you 2 hours of your life. Just remember that, gentlemen.
Yes. I'm certainly not a wizard. And while Ben has the beard,
I could pretend
you're more of a dwarf.
I
you're
could pretend to be one.
Like you're
maybe.
6
I
foot
don't
dwarf.
want anybody pretending to be anywhere near a kind of a magic thing whatsoever. And the other thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye. It's a goodbye from Ben, and it's a goodbye from Josh. Say goodbye, you
Goodbye,
lovely people.
folks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, and check out, go a bit north of the border and kind of check out podcasts in Scotland. You might be lucky, or you might be unlucky. You might not only be unlucky, you might be a frog. You might not only be unlucky and a frog, but you might be into gaming. In fact, you might be the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast.
If you fit all 3 niches, boy, have we got a show for you.
They'll send a t-shirt for you free of charge if you fill the criteria. I'm just saying.
I would be quite willing to send a frog a t-shirt if we could find a legitimate frog who listens to the podcast.
Absolutely. But until the next time, goodbye. Say goodbye, guys.
No, goodbye.
Oh, bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
There we are.